So what is it called? The CVSA or something like that? CVSA Safe Driver Week is coming up in July. The great, we should call it the Great American Inspection. Really, it is. It's the week where DOT's out, and they're not only out after tractor trailers, but they're also after, four-wheelers. And so the nationwide targeting is going to be the first week of July this year, which I believe that's about when it is. But the good thing is they like to warn people. It says the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, or the CVSA, has provided details to get drivers ready for the upcoming Operation Safe Driver Week Blitz. Guess what they're targeting this year?
What are they targeting?
You know what? It's actually, before I tell you, it says the Operation Safe Driving Week will take place July 7th through the 13th, United States, Mexico, and Canada. So everybody in Canada, I know that all your trucks are legal up there. They're coming for you. And I definitely know down in Mexico that all the trucks are legal. But just in case, they're coming after you guys and you Americans. We know all your trucks are legal. I should just say we know that. All three countries. We have guys that run legal, and we have guys that run illegal. And the FMCSA, or the CVSA, or the FMCSA is going to be out. DOT basically is out on the prowl, okay? And they are going to be watching. Cops, DOT, they're all in force, and they're looking for reckless drivers.
Good.
Like, for example, following too close, weaving in and out of traffic. That's going to be one of their big targetings this coming year. But here's what I would tell you. Remember, a lot of drivers like to take off that week, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm serious. I know a lot of drivers will say, just let me know what week it is. That's the week I'm doing vacation. And they're serious. A lot of them take off because that is the week where, like, say you're in traffic, right? Mm-hmm. And you got, like, maybe a couple cops that are looking to, get some big numbers on tickets. And so now it's real easy to say, oh, he's following too close. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Coming into a city, everybody's tightening up, everybody's closer. So that's the week where they don't overlook stuff, is what I'm trying to say. So July 7th, be on your P's and Q's for real drivers.
Or your vacays.
This is so funny. I don't care if you're in Canada, Mexico, or the United States, guys. I'm serious when I say this. The DOT and the cops are in force, and they're all, we've said this before, they're kind of in competition. You know what I mean? Like, one station might be egging on the other, and so they kind of, I'm not saying they'll make stuff up, because they don't really have to make stuff up. There's enough bad drivers out there. But really, be careful of not using your turn signal when you're changing lanes. Be careful of cutting in, too close to somebody. Be careful of, especially, I seen a video the other day where a four-wheeler got in front of a trucker, and everybody was making their opinion, and they're like, well, these four-wheelers are blah, 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 but the trucker didn't back off. Okay. And
right.
So he's staying on the guy's butt. And so a lot of truck drivers they're commenting, listen, it doesn't really matter whose fault it is. The professional driver has the obligation and the responsibility to back off, even though you got a jackass in front of you, brake checking you, or just he cut in front of you and he's going slow now. Mm-hmm. Don't get angry and ride the guy's butt, because actually shouldn't be ever. But I'm telling you, that week, even if you're like 3 seconds into it and a cop sees you, they're going to nail you, because that's the week they're getting their brownie points.
Right. Well, we got to be professional. When you said don't get angry?
Right.
Guess what popped in my head?
Tell me.
Do you remember the old garbage can, like the garbage bag commercials? Don't get angry, get glad. When the garbage bags would bust open every time?
It was don't get mad, get glad.
Oh, well, there you go. Angry, mad. Same thing.
Glad, heavyweight trash bag. I remember that commercial.
Everybody knows I was going to say. Every now and then, Troy will, like, all of a sudden start singing,
I never sing.
different commercials, and like sometimes it was Band-Aids, other times it was Oscar Myers. There's a couple of them that you're like, do you remember this? I'm like, no. But that's our life. Our life is just a bunch of comedy.
So they're also looking for distracted driving, which I mean, I believe they should be looking for that all the time. Reckless drivers all the time. And then it also says drugged and drunk drivers. Ew. They're looking for those guys. But to me, it's like...
That should be all the time.
Yeah, that shouldn't be anything... That should not be really anything special. You know what I mean? Get the intoxicated guy off the road. Nobody wants him on the road, whether it's only for that 1 week out of the year or it's for 6 months after. If you... This message is to the police. Pull over all drunk drivers. Don't just wait till July 7th.
Yeah, especially since it's the weekend after the 4th of July when they all partied and have hangovers, so they're not going to be drinking.
That's kind of ridiculous if you think about it.
It is.
You know, like go back to targeting bad breaks and always get the drunk drivers.
Go after the ice pick bandit.
Yeah, get that guy.
Get him.
That should be included in the July 7th to 13th. We're looking for the ice pick bandit. All right, good. All right, so moving on. Take a break.
Sure.
All right. Drivers, if you're looking for a local, home, everyday driving job, apply with Carter Lumber today. They have positions for Class A and Class B local drivers. They can take experienced drivers, students, and non-CDL drivers. With over 160 locations, chances are they have a position for you. So go to carterlumber.com/TalkCDL and apply today. Again, that's carterlumber.com/TalkCDL. Thank you. Hey drivers, are you sick of watching the other drivers bypass the weigh station while you are held up going through yourself? Well, download Drivewyze today at www.drivewyze.com. That's DRIVEWYZE.com, and start bypassing the scales yourself. If you're a small carrier, an owner-operator, or even a big fleet looking for something better, check out Drivewyze today. And remember, there's no equipment, no transponders needed when you're using Drivewyze. Check them out for a free download at www.drivewyze.com. Truck Parking Club is a network of instantly reservable daily and monthly truck parking locations throughout the U.S. Truck Parking Club helps connect truckers to truck parking locations throughout the U.S. via truckparkingclub.com. Our networks is made up of property owners that have locations adequate for truck parking to list on the platform. This includes trucking companies, storage companies, CDL schools, trailer leasing companies, real estate investors, truck parking operators, and more. Go to truckparkingclub.com today. If you're a driver looking for a new trucking job, check out NCI. NCI offers the following: new Kenworth T680s, competitive wages, solo, team, and students welcome, plus a full benefit package for you and your family. Check them out today at 888-311-7076. That's 888-7076. And tell them TalkCDL sent you. Okay, we are back.
We're back.
You know, I wanted to bring something up here. And I'm a little disappointed in something, but I had a driver write into me about felonies.
Okay.
And he was asking me about, you know, I think what he wanted to know is like, what are his chances of getting work and all this other stuff. And first off, I'll say this to anybody: if you got your CDL, don't give up. You know what I mean? Definitely there's, you know, some company will pick you up eventually. And you know that, right? Usually.
Right.
But I would also, though, advise you, if you're listening to the show, to really listen to this for a second. If you haven't gotten your CDL yet, I would advise you to check with some safety directors or some trucking companies or myself about your felony, the type of felony, and when was your felony. Because it's going to mean a lot when you fill out your application if you're going to be getting many jobs, if any.
Well, you said when your felony, but also when it was done.
Right.
Everything.
And that's what I was going to talk about.
Okay.
But go ahead. You can.
No. Go right ahead.
Well, no worries. So my thing is, when it comes to felonies, you're hireable, but depending on what type of felony you have and when it happened, and like Ruth Ann just said, when it's completed, meaning probation or parole. And that's really most trucking companies, as far as a timeline goes, most of them will tell you it's got to be older than 7 to 10 years. Some companies are 10, some companies are 7, some companies are never, because of maybe their customer, the type of customer they have, they can't. I will tell you, if you hook up with a trucking company that goes to Canada, Canada does not allow felons, and in some cases, guys that have DUIs even. And so you have to get what's called a minister's permit, and you have to file that with the consulate, okay? And then you have to, I think you actually have to pay for that. It's a few $100s. That's if you have a felony and you're trying to get into Canada. But if you're just trying to get a basic trucking job in the United States, and for example, you're going for your CDL this year, right? Well, if you just got out of prison, or your felony was only 2-3 years ago, I would advise you to make sure you interview some companies and get a guarantee that if you get your CDL, they will hire you, because most likely you're going to be spending money on a CDL and getting disappointment, okay? For example, if you have, like you were saying, it's not only when you got out of prison. Let's say you got out of prison, okay, 8 years ago, but you were on parole for 4 years to where you had to report to an officer. So you got out 8 years ago, but you had 4 more years of parole, meaning it was only 4 years ago that it was completed. There was nothing at all. And the trucking companies kind of stick to that. Okay, you got out 8 years ago, but your last parole encounter with your parole officer, or whatever the case is, probation, whatever, was only 4 years ago. So they're only going to start counting time now from 4 years ago. So you guys should know that. And if the trucking companies are saying 7 to 10 years, well, then you probably want to hold off for 3 years before you get your CDL. Or, like I said, get on the phone or go knock on doors and get some kind of a guarantee. Let them know, hey, I want to get my CDL, but I had a felony 7 years ago. Everything was all finished 4 years ago, or whatever the case is. Would you give me a chance?
I would, and this is just my advice. Mm-hmm. Instead of going to a trucking school, mm-hmm. or if you decide to do that route, the companies that are large, like with them, and a lot of your companies that are smaller, that do more over-the-road lines, that don't have their own trucking schools, they generally will not hire a student that has something like that. So it's easier if you are at that point where you have like a year or so left, go to a company that you can do your training with, that you're no longer considered a student, which would be at least 9 months to a year. Generally 1 year under your belt, you're not considered a student anymore. And I would go with the company that you'd be able to stick with and do your training and everything through. Then by that point, by the time you're done all that, you would be able to get in with a lot of other companies easier if it's at that time frame than where it's considered completed.
Exactly, and I agree with you. So my advice truly is find out what you're up against before you get the CDL. I know there's a lot of drivers that some of these trucking schools, they in fact, this guy that wrote in, he's like, yeah, I was told I'll get a million offers because I'm getting a Class A CDL. And especially right now, the way the economy is right now, drivers that have felonies or drug failures, they right now are having a harder time, even with experience, finding good employment.
Right.
So, the thing about it is, and I told them, I said, as the economy turns around, they loosen their belts on hiring, and you may get in, but I'm telling you, before I spend my money, I would want to know, I want to be a trucker. It's my dream. A lot of these guys, it's what they want to do, man.
It's like being a firefighter.
Yeah, it's like, you got the dream, man.
Firefighter, trucker, and a police officer. They all want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, exactly childhood dreams. And so, being a trucker, was what I wanted to do, And so you want to find out, am I going to be able to get a job if I go through all this stuff to get my CDL, guys? That's it. So the other thing I wanted to mention is also it depends on what your felony was for. Because I've had guys call me in times past, and told me that they had maybe murder. Right. And I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of companies' policies, written or unwritten, no violent felonies and no sexual felonies, and especially violence or sexual acts against a child or a woman. And I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why sexual felonies and violent felonies are a big no-no with these companies. And we've talked about this before a couple years ago, but one of the biggest questions that a trucking company asks, one of the biggest questions they ask is, how defendable in court is this guy we're hiring? Meaning, if I hire a guy that, so I'm just going to say, had a rape charge, right? And he takes my truck across the state line. When you go across state line, it makes it a felony, if this guy I hire goes across state line, or even does it in, rape is a felony, whether it's across state line or not, and he rapes somebody in my truck, I'm now responsible for this guy. How defendable in court is this guy? And you know what the answer to that is? If you hire a guy that had a felony for rape and he literally goes and rapes somebody, I'm telling you, this is the big thing you're up against when you're going to get a job. Murder, same thing. If he murders a guy, what's going to happen to me as a trucking company? That's what they want to know. Am I screwed? And the answer is yes. If you hire a guy and he goes and does that, right, in your truck, on work time, buddy, that's their biggest fear. And that's why you also want to make sure of when you go and you want to talk to these safety directors or these trucking companies, be upfront about everything. I'm going to tell you that right now. Tell them, here's what happened. Here's the circumstances. Here's the time, because there's a good chance you're going to be turned down. I would want to guarantee, if I'm trying to get my CDL and somebody is literally, if I'm going to talk to a trucking company and I go all over the details and they tell me, yeah, I'll hire you. Okay, I want that in writing, because I'm going to tell you something. Honestly, you and I both know words don't mean a whole lot with people these days. I would want something in writing that as long as my driving record's clean, my work history looks good, that this felony is not going to be counted against me getting a job with this company. I would want that in writing. Right.
Now, and you had made a comment about something. The one thing drivers have to realize is if you had a girlfriend and you were 21 or whatever the case might have been.
Statutory.
That's still, they don't care about that. That's still considered a sexual crime. Or you could have said it's your girlfriend all you want. They don't know that. They don't care about that. They just know it's in black and white.
And I think what you're trying to say, Ruth Ann, is we feel for you drivers that, have maybe messed up. Maybe you got an armed robbery felony or whatever the case is. But as soon as
wrong place, wrong time type of thing.
Yeah, like for real. Maybe something like you said, whatever happened. I don't feel bad for anybody that raped somebody. I'll tell you that right now. I'll say it right here on the show, especially a little kid. Feel zero empathy for that guy. I mean it. I'm serious. I'm sorry. I'm not here to put you down, but honestly and truly, I can't blame a trucking company for not hiring you. But let's say you have a crime of violence, like robbery, whatever, right? Or you beat somebody up and they died or whatever the case is, or maybe whatever. You have I have a little compassion on that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying
like in the movie Con Air, when Nicolas Cage sticks up for his wife and beats the guy up.
That's a great, I think he died.
Yeah, and he goes to prison, and all he did was stick up for his pregnant wife.
Yeah.
But because he's considered a dangerous man, because his fists are like guns and they're pow, pow, pow.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
I feel bad for that guy.
But no, that's true though, Ruthann. There are many guys that, or never committed a crime ever, and they punch some guy in the face to defend maybe somebody like their wife or whatever, and literally the guy falls back, hits his head and dies or whatever the case is. And now, there was a case in Indiana a couple of years ago where a trucker got punched and killed. I should follow up to see what happened there. But bottom line is, yes, there's some guys that got a bad rap. It was just a bad moment, and he did time. Well, I would still check, and I would still want it in writing that I could get a job if I apply and get my CDL. That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree. I see what you're saying.
Right.
And I think they do too.
So guys, just know what you're doing before you go and waste a lot of time and money, because it could really get frustrating when you're, putting in, I think this guy had told me, he said he put in a lot of applications, and, I feel that, you're probably should have been told by the trucking company if you told the trucking or not the trucking company, but the trucking school. If you're honest with a trucking school and they still tell you to, oh yeah, you're going to get a lot of offers. I remember, do you remember that one guy had like 4
DUIs?
Yeah, like 4. This was like years ago.
DUI guy.
I'm talking like 15 years ago. We were talking to a driver, and I'll never forget. He told me he just got out of trucking school, and he had like 4 or 5 DUIs. Right? And if you remember, I asked him, I said, didn't the trucking school tell you that no
one will hire you?
Like you don't listen.
One's bad, two's no.
I've only ever seen 1 or 2 companies that would allow 2 DUIs in a lifetime.
It's a lifetime now.
And every one of them says 0 in a commercial vehicle. But I know of 1 or 2 companies, they're still in business today. Their policy used to be no more than 2 DUIs in a lifetime. Okay. But most trucking companies are like, if they'll take a DUI, it's got to be over 5 or 7 years, right? And then on top of it, okay, no more than 1 in a lifetime.
Right.
And 0 ever in a commercial. You got a DUI in a commercial. All I'm saying is these trucking schools, they want your money very bad, and they might just lie to you.
I think they will.
I think you guys better call me, and I'll tell you what your odds are. I'm telling you, I really will. Anyways, moving on, Ruthann.
Moving on.
We just beat the dead horse on that one, didn't we?
Oh, we?
That's an old saying. Never beat a dead horse.
I don't like the saying, though.
What, beating a dead horse?
I have empathy with a horse.
Well, see, the reason they said that back in the Western days, the Old West, the Wild Wild West, they would ride a horse till it died. You know what I mean? Or if it, and they would be like smacking its butt to get it moving. Well, once it's dead, it ain't going to move. And that's why they say, you're really beating a dead horse here. Move on. Troy, you've killed the horse. All right, so next on the agenda, where are we at on time? Let me look at the time. What? Let me see. Oh, we're only at 21 minutes. You would think it felt like we've been on longer.
Well, babe, sometimes when you start talking, it does feel like forever.
You're just too funny, babe.
Yeah.
All right.
I got it in me now.
Yeah, you see that. All right, so,
My back is so sore.
There was something else I wanted to mention. Remember back we did an interview with the OIDA guy at the Louisville Truck Show,
right?
And we talked about speed limiters, and he said that that the cat's out of the bag. The number is 65 that they're targeting, and that they're really wanting all trucks, including owner-operators, and they're going to, be cutting everybody down to 65. And he said they kicked the can down the road, but the can is about to come up here in a couple of weeks. May is just around the corner.
Right.
And so this is going to be in just a few weeks down the road. Nobody's talking about it, but I'm telling you, now OIDA felt that they may kick the can down the road even further and say, okay, we're going to not decide this month either. But they've already kicked the can down a couple times. And so now there's a possibility they may announce that, hey, we're gonna go through with this 65, and here's the target date. So if they do say 65 is it, I don't know what's next if they actually decide that they're going to do that. But I will tell you, the reason I mentioned that is because a couple truck drivers that were interviewed brought up a good point. There's a interstate there, I think in Oklahoma, right, that the speed limit, it's a 60-mile stretch in Oklahoma, right, that was up to 80, right? Right. And so, but it says speed limit up to 80 miles per hour along 59-mile stretch of Bailey Turnpike, and it's in Oklahoma. But a lot of truckers are not happy with this. They said, here's what some of them are saying. It's a section on I-44, H.E. Bailey, between Newcastle and Chickasha. What a name. Chickasha was signed for 80 mile an hour. Okay. And this was actually signed back in 2020. So they finally jacked it up on this part. But what they're saying is, and here's the reason why, because there's a lot of trucking companies that have their truck speed between 55 and 68 miles an hour. Okay. If you're a truck, right, and you're at 65, let's just use the 65 speed for a second, right? You can't go any faster than 65, flat out, right?
Right.
Okay. But now, if you're a car that's allowed to do 80, what do most people do if the speed limit's 70 on the interstate? What are they usually doing? Safely, without getting pulled over, 10.
75 to 78.
Yeah, I mean, and most cops will tell you on the interstate, they'll give you 10. They don't usually, they're looking for the drivers that are 15, 20, 25 over. That's really, they're looking for the big bad speeders, right? But let's just say you get a car that's figures, well, I could do 90 and not get a ticket. But you got some trucks that are doing 60 and 65. That's like 25 to 35 miles faster than the tractor trailer's doing.
So it's going to be weaving around and it's going to be flying around them.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's very unsafe. And these truck drivers that were saying this bring that up as a good point, that you're jacking these speeds up even higher and higher for cars. But there's a lot of big trucking companies to where their trucks are everywhere, and now you've got this huge difference in speed. And then what happens when you get the guy that's doing 20 or 30 over? Now he's 50 miles an hour faster than some truck governed by some trucking company.
And if he has any kind of, we won't even go at saying he has any kind of medical failure, but say his tire blows, or say he clips, cuts it too close to a vehicle in front of him because he wanted to pass them, and, he happens to do it in front of a tractor trailer or by their tandems, you have a serious situation there. For the first time ever that I can remember, the other day I was going down the street, and in the passing lane was a little, I guess it was like a box truck. And it says this vehicle goes 65 miles per hour at the most or something like that, it said. But it had it right in the very back of it. It was like some kind of sticker that was put there by the company. And I thought to myself, well, that's really nice that they actually put that there, because literally he was doing 65. He was literally doing his max in the passing lane. He should have been over, but he had a couple of cars behind him waiting for him to get out of their way. I just slid up around the right and passed him that way.
You know how you'll be behind like a vehicle on the interstate that's like addressing an emergency up ahead. It'll have arrows pointing left, lane blocked, and it's actually moving with the traffic, or it'll say accident ahead, right? I've seen them. What I'm getting at is I can see trucking companies having to put some flashing sign on the back stating 65 mile an hour truck, 65 mile an hour truck, to like you said, you've seen the sticker, but now you got somebody that's doing 40, 50 miles an hour faster than you. There's probably a good, my guess would be there's probably a good chance that a trucking company is now going to be like, you know what, we need to warn these guys, because first off, they don't want to kill anybody. Second off, they don't want to get sued, because even though you get the dumbass that's driving bad, what do they always do? They always try to sue the trucking company.
They blame the trucker. They blame the trucker for everything. So if the trucker's got the neon lights, like the little Bugs Bunny thing where it's got the arrows and it's all pointing there and it's saying, this truck only does 65 and it's got the woo, woo, woo going, the little spinners and everything like that. Every way possible for someone to know this is only going to go 65. You can do what you want, but we can only go 65, Go around us in whatever form or whatever way you need to, but you can't blame us for any of it.
No, 100%. That's why I said, I could see it all coming to that. And so, anyways, going back to my original topic here.
Sorry.
No. You didn't go off. I'm just saying the original topic was the speed limiter argument is coming up in May. And that's why I brought up this other thing that just was announced that, Oklahoma just jacked theirs up to 80, and you still have trucking companies that are, 30 miles an hour under that, at least 20 under that. So I would tell you guys, be careful. And, if, I don't know is it legal to put your four ways on, when you're on that 59 mile stretch, maybe to warn people behind you, hey, there's companies that do 60, 62 miles an hour and that's all they get,
Right.
So perhaps run with your four ways on when you're on that stretch, just to let the dummy behind you that you don't want to kill know, hey, flashers, better watch out at my 90 mile an hour speed here. Anyways, let's move on.
I wonder if my tractor could only do that. I wonder if the company would allow me to put something on the back of my trailer and just saying, I can only do this, go around me, so that they know, like, hey, maybe that will let the companies start thinking about putting that on the back of their tractors. Go around. I can only do this much. Go around me.
Possibility, yeah.
No, I do.
Yeah, let's move on.
Moving on.
How about we just whip out the word of the day?
You know what I need? I need to figure out. I need to create a ditty.
A ditty?
For when it's time for my word of the day.
Oh, a ditty?
Ditty. Not P Diddy, just a ditty.
How about we see if anybody wants to write a little. There's a lot of guys that listen to us that like write songs and stuff like that.
That's true.
Wouldn't that be a neat little Southern thing? Now it's time for Ruth and or something like that,
Guys, one of y'all make me a ditty.
Make Ruth Ann a ditty.
I want a ditty.
She gets the ditty. All right. What do you got? Can I give you a ditty right now?
Go ahead.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, whatever. Go ahead. Word of the day. Go for it, Ruth Ann.
Notice.
Wait, did you say notice?
Notice. Nodus. Notice.
Okay.
Notice.
Notice. Go do it again.
Notice.
Okay, so At first, I thought it said notice, and now I'm thinking of a lotus. But honestly and truly, what's a notice?
A notice is a problem, difficulty, or complication. The team hadn't expected to encounter a notice this early in the project. Despite the notice of the car not starting, they both managed to get to work on time.
Nice. Refer something like that?
A sockdologer.
A sockdologer.
Hey, I like socks.
Praise the Lord.